thank you everyone for joining us for another session of ACE Spotlight Series. Today, I am really excited to be joined by ACE Epic alumni, Julia Izzo. Julia served not one, but two Epic terms here with ACE, the first being a refugee support member with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at the Nathaniel P. Reed Hobe Sound National Wildlife Refuge in the fall through the spring of 2024. And then they hopped on over as an invasive plant control project manager with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at the Arthur R. Marshall Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge. Whoa, say that 12 times fast. That spring of 2024, and they are currently there. Julia, thank you so much for meeting us and just kind of sharing a little bit about your journey. So I'm going to dive right in. Kind of how did ACE become a part of your journey?
Yeah, so I graduated college in the spring of 2022 with a degree in biology. I knew I wanted to work in conservation. My first job out of college was a seasonal technician position with Fish and Wildlife in Alaska. So I worked with a lot of Fish and Wildlife employees there, really got to know the kind of the organization, and Fish and Wildlife was something that I really wanted to continue my career with. I did a seasonal position with the Park Service after that in Mississippi, and then another seasonal position with Fish and Wildlife in Oregon. And then I was looking for another position. Seasonal jobs, they usually only last a couple months, so you're hopping around place to place. And I applied for some jobs with ACE. I had a friend who had done ACE, so she recommended it to me. And I got my first job with ACE at Nathaniel P. Reed Hobe Sound National Wildlife Refuge in Florida. So I was there as the refuge support member. So I was helping the staff with pretty much everything that they were doing on the refuge. It's a really small staff. There's only 3 people. There's only 3 people. So I was able to help with biology. I helped with admin. I helped with maintenance, visitor services. It was a really cool experience to be able to just be involved in everything.
Yeah, all the hats you were wearing. That's really cool. It's a really holistic kind of understanding of how, a space like that works, which is really,
yeah. Yeah, it was a good introduction to all the different possible roles that there are in Fish and Wildlife, because there's so much variety in what goes on. People definitely, like me personally, gravitate towards the biology. Like that's what I studied in school. But a lot of the jobs in conservation also involve working with the public and maintaining facilities and lots of paperwork. And so it was really good to get experience with all those different things. I got to help design a gopher tortoise survey project, monitoring gopher tortoises on the refuge because they're a threatened species in Florida. So that was one of the big projects that I did while I was there. I also helped run beach cleanups for volunteers every month. We have a nature center on site, so I was able to help with animal care with that. So it was really just a lot of different things going on. It feels like I was there for so much longer than 6 months.
Yeah, sounds like it. Oh, that's really cool. Had you been to Florida before taking this position? Had you been to like that kind of region?
I had been to the west coast of Florida as like a 4-year-old visiting family. I had not been to Florida as an adult now.
Wow. Oh my, that's the one thing I love about this industry of like all the different regions and places. Like you said, your first position at college, what was in Alaska? To go like Alaska to Florida through that's really cool. That's really, really
it's
cool.
really fun. It's kind of like always, it's work, but there's an aspect of like always being on vacation. Like you're just always traveling around.
Well, yeah, everything's new. You don't necessarily have, especially that seasonal life, as you're only there for, a short season where that's 3 months or 6 months. And that's not necessarily enough time to fall into a routine or create some normalcy that, the normal 9-to-5ers, AKA me, who sits behind a computer desk has, right? So that's the part, honestly, I miss from field work myself. It's just kind of being, like you said, kind of like on vacation. Obviously you're working, but everything is still similar. So even when you're not working and learning new things, you're still learning things outside in your environment on your personal time, which I think is
it's very adventurous. I have a lot of friends from college that'll be like, what state do you live in now? Like, where are you?
Yes. Oh, that's good that you've trained your friends. I used to train my friends. The first question they asked, like, hey, where are you at now? Let's draw the map here. So, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so now, you did your Florida position. And so now you're at the Arthur R. Marshall. That's like, pretty difficult to say 5 times fast.
They're both very long names. Like,
Great,
And
great
it's
long
not a good
name.
acronym either. Like shortening it as an acronym in an email is still like 7 or 8 letters.
That's a very, as I love myself an acronym. That's a long acronym.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I started here back in April.
okay.
So I was working at Hope Sound, and most refuges are complex, which just means that like they share management and some other staff. And
Oh, okay.
so Hope Sound was complex with Loxahatchee. So Lox is 30, 40 minutes away.
Okay.
And so I
Gotcha.
actually had worked, like I'd been to Lox before, I'd worked with a bunch of the people. And so I heard they told me that they had a position open. So I applied for that. So
Oh,
it was nice because I already knew a lot of the staff and
yeah.
only
Well,
had
and
to make
understand
30
the
minutes.
management. Yeah, right. We'll be able to stay in the same region, understand the management since it's all kind of under the same umbrella in terms of how, those wildlife refuges are managed. It's like a really
Mhm.
seamless kind of trajectory and kind of next step for you, which
Yes.
is great. But that's so cool. I love that. I love when kind of organically things happen within that way.
Mhm.
And so so you're currently still a member. When does your term end?
My term ends in September of this year. So it's a year and a half long position. So I just hit my halfway last week, which I cannot believe that I'm already halfway through.
Right. That's wild. That's wild. Oh, that's so exciting. That's so exciting. So kind of question, kind of pivoting a little bit, like, do you have any career goals? Like, are you kind of working towards something, just kind of gathering as much field time as you can until you kind of settle on something? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah, so I've worked, this is my fourth seasonal position with Fish and Wildlife. So I've been around Fish and Wildlife a lot, done a lot of work in Fish and Wildlife. I'd really like to work as a biologist or a refuge manager for Fish and Wildlife. Those are kind of my long-term career goals. So just
Yeah.
getting time and experience and applying to
Yeah,
jobs and seeing what
definitely.
opens up.
Yeah, that's kind of the game we play. And I remember us chatting with one spotlight that I did a few sessions ago, and they had mentioned, like, once you're into a federal agency, it's really, really nice to be able to hop around to try and different, because I know you mentioned you did an NPS kind of internship and learning just the different style of agencies and how they operate and how they run. And it's, nice you've been able to continue this with Fish and Wildlife and really understand and really like that style and like that agency and the work that they do, which I'm so grateful that ACE kind of helps facilitate some of those opportunities, just to be able to dip your toes and to figure out, all right, do I like this? Like, is this the kind of agency and kind of work I want to do? Which is,
For sure. Yeah. I know I'm a little biased, but I think Fish and
that's
Wildlife is
okay.
pretty great.
I mean, most people I chat to are, so that's totally okay. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for chatting with us today. I do want to end with one kind of question to end us off, is if you have any advice or lessons learned that you would like to share with anyone looking to get into conservation.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to not be afraid to try new things and also to just agree to things within your jobs. Like I've had a lot of jobs where there's been opportunities that aren't necessarily related to what I'm doing. Like when I was working at Hope Sound, there were a couple times that I was invited down to Loxahatchee to help with Python training. So we do like Python surveys because pythons are invasive in the Everglades.
Mhm.
So I came down here and did that training. I helped with some other events that they had, which is kind of how I made the connections that helped me get this job. I've done in all of my seasonal jobs, I've done a wide variety of trainings. And in the government, there's a lot of things that you can't do unless you've been trained, and the trainings might only be available limited. So like when I worked in Alaska, we did aviation training. So like being a member of an aviation crew, which literally just means you sit in a plane and you don't do any work, but you still have to do training for that. And I did that training because I needed it for one trip we were going on. And then when I got down here, they do aerial surveys of the area that I work in, and I was able to get on one of those surveys because I had the training. And if I hadn't taken that training in another job, like I just wouldn't have been able to go. So things
Great.
like that are like UTV training, and MOCC, which is the boat training, is really big. Just kind of, or even like not formal trainings, but being able to help out with like a shorebird survey or a python survey or an alligator survey. Like there's such a variety of jobs in this career, but to get a job, sometimes you just need to be able to say that you've done something once.
There
Like
you
if
go.
you, that's
Love that.
big.
right? Check it off. You check that box and again,
Exactly.
you don't know when or where that skill and that experience will then come in handy in the future. Like it did.
Hmm.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Julia. It was such a joy to get to know you and shine this quick little spotlight on you and your journey with ACE and in conservation. Thank you so much, and we will talk with you soon.